Hello, 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 and welcome to the Rag Company Podcast, Comments of the Week, Edition 2.
Woo! This is going to be nice.
Yeah.
This is the second week we've done this, and I was pumped
Stirring
after
the
last
pot.
week.
This
It's
is
fun.
Working it in.
I don't know anything else to say
I'm
other
over here
than
churning the
I
butter.
want to do this as often as possible, at least once a week. So if we can make that happen, it's awesome.
Yeah.
But I know we're going to be busy sometimes when we can't. But
Yeah.
you know what? We're going to give it to you this week, though.
Dane's going to give it to you. X going to
Give it to you.
X
So,
gonna give it to
yeah. Any rate, guys, we've got some questions, some comments, some stuff that we're
Some
going to
banter.
cover.
We're gonna talk.
This was kind
Talk
of
to
a very, not going to say a hot week, but a good week for some comments.
Yeah.
I think it's always a good week for some comments. I just
think
think
it
we've
is. I
never
think
had
we've
an
just
ability
never actually had to, like,
share them.
Well, in fairness, I
Through 'em
had already settled on what all the I'm the only one who knows what all comments we have because I compile
Dane's
the
the
images
only
and I
one.
make the
It's true.
templates.
Yeah.
These guys don't know what's coming, but I put them together, and then this morning I saw there was a new comment, and
That
it was
was a great
just
one.
I was so taken aback by it. I was, oh my god, I have to include this one because
Absolutely.
I can't tell if this guy's joking or what. So you guys know about that one, but that's the only one you know about.
You
so
guys
anyway,
that are listening
guys,
don't. The Royal,
Yeah.
me and Anthony know because we got
Yes.
text messages.
People
So-
get the royal wheeze mixed
Anyway,
up a lot
guys,
here in this.
without further ado, I would like to ask Tim, please present us with the first comment.
Tim, what do you got?
All right. The first comment is from Pan the Organizer's YouTube channel.
Okay.
Nice.
One of the videos we just released about towels.
Oh,
Is
yeah.
Tim in this podcast? Can they hear
Yeah,
his voice?
Tim
they can
is-
hear Tim.
That's cool.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Mr. Tim O'Brien.
You may or may not have heard him before, but
Technology
please
is-
get used to the soothing sounds of Tim's voice because he's going to be joining us for these from now on, I think.
All right. So I'm going to read as Shanirani.
I'm not going to
Wow,
try and pronounce it,
Kaboj.
but
All right.
yeah. Well,
So,
first of all, let's
Shan
lay out
says-
what video this is
This
on.
is Pan the Organizer's YouTube channel, episode number 2, Understanding Microfiber, GSM, and Use. That is me and Pan discussing the magic of microfiber.
correct.
So,
Demystifying.
here we go. He says, my wife doesn't like terry microfiber because of that stickiness that you talked about on what? Talked about on
He's saying
7
7
minutes.
minute mark.
The 7 minute mark. She puts them in boiling water so it won't stick anymore. But that microfiber doesn't pick up dirt as good as before. She did that before she met me. So now I do all the cleaning in the house. Smiley face.
So I'll be Pan.
So
Let me just go ahead and do this. Pan. I'm just kidding. All right. So, oh my God, OMG, she was probably destroying all the fibers by boiling the towels. Microfibers are supposed to be grabby as their fibers cling to dirt. That's the beauty of their efficiency.
Pan the Organizer. This is Shan.
Thanks,
Most people doesn't know that, including her. That's why I clean the towels and the house now. Laughing face. I had to explain to a bunch of people not to wash them in very hot water. Almost everybody that I spoke to hate that grabby effect. They don't understand how microfiber works. They call it magical towels. Stupid TV marketing.
Well, I think we can speak with some authority, at least on this particular subject.
Yeah, they're right. That's exactly right, folks.
Yeah, there are people who do not like that feeling of the closed loop, not twist loop, but closed loop construction style towels where
Of a terry.
it's that, yeah, especially the terries are the most common, the most well known for this. So when people think microfiber, and their immediate first thought is, oh, it grabs my skin because they don't
Yeah.
know about other types
My
of
wife says
microfiber.
it grabs back.
Yeah.
And when I told her that it was a bunch of hands, like a bunch of little fingers and hands,
Freaked her out.
that's all she could think about was a bunch of little hands like grabbing onto her.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, I don't want to touch that towel anymore.
All I can
Kind of hard
envision-
when that particular line of business is your entire life
Yeah.
now.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of like in Deadpool when he has like the small hand.
Yeah,
and,
it's like
and,
the small
he's
hand
I
with a
don't
little-
I don't want to touch the small hand. Or in Scary Movie 2, when the guy's hanging out the window, he's like, grab my
Grab my
strong
hand.
hand.
No.
He's like,
No, I
give me
really...
your other
Yeah,
hand.
he's stirring the
Yeah.
clean, scooping up the food with
The
his
mashed
baby hand.
potatoes. That was disgusting.
Yeah. So
But more importantly, microfiber.
Sorry.
But yeah, no. So the terry weave, when it's basically looped, so it is literally. If you guys are watching this on the YouTube feed, it's a giant loop. And if you think of it like Velcro, you've got what's known as a hook and a loop. The hook is caused by the roughness of your skin.
Even if
And
you have smooth skin,
Yep.
it'll probably still
It's
grab.
that microscopic and that small. The fibers are so small that when you run your hand over them, that's what you're feeling is your skin
Yep.
touching and catching on those loops. So that's why it's so sticky. Now, lower quality microfiber sometimes feel more grabby than the higher end microfiber. I have no
I think
explanation for
I
that.
think the best way to describe that is because so with some of the cheaper microfiber, the lack of polyamide making the towel softer, right?
I think
you're
you're
just
right on.
getting the grabbiness of the polyester, and I think that it feels rougher.
I think so.
And I think that it just feels it's just a more aggravated feel versus a softer towel where it's still grabbing, but you don't notice it because the towel's softer.
Yeah,
I think that's.
and I honestly, I think you're probably right.
I think in a nutshell, that's what it is.
And then for like towels like our Eagle or even like the Minx or any of those that like the circular knit, we refer to them as a split microfiber, but in reality, all microfiber is split.
Yeah.
That's what
if
the
it's
logo,
proper microfiber, it's split on a microscopic level.
It's already
like
split.
That.
Yeah.
But that split is then looped, where these are just the individual strands sticking up. So it's just strands of microfiber going up, which is why these, the circular knit weave towels or split microfiber style
And the
towels,
way
in
they're
a sense.
constructed, the way they're knit through the base, it's different
It's
than
a different weave,
the
way
loops,
it's
which
knitted. So
are what the terries are.
So
and
those
stuff.
ones don't. So usually people who don't like traditional microfiber, or say if you ever come into our store, people ask and they're like, oh, I just don't like microfiber because it grabs back. I hand them a Pluffle, I hand them an Eagle, and they're like, oh, this is nice. I love the way this feels.
What kind of towel is this?
Or they go,
Yeah.
wait,
Microfiber
that's
towel.
microfiber?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they say that. Yeah. Or they grab a waffle weave or something that's not that traditional terry. My wife keeps Eagle 350s. That's her favorite towel. She loves it.
I love those
That's
things.
what she uses. And that's because that same reason. I have a brother-in-law who's exactly the same way. And when he came in to buy towels, I steered him only over to Eagles and said, here you go. And he was like, I can use these.
Yeah, and you'll
That
get
was
those
him.
guys, those construction workers that'll come in and you see their hands. They're basically.
Or other detailers.
I shake their hand and my hand begins bleeding. And I'm like, what,
You're
sir,
like,
what?
oh my God.
Why does your hand feel like razor blades? And like, that's what a man's hand feels like. And that's when I
tell
like.
you that
man
you.
hand.
That's
Well,
when
they
my,
also tell you that that's what a big man's hands.
yeah, that's
you
when my
know.
tail goes between my
unlike your
legs.
little
and I'm like,
hands.
all right, obviously you're
You
establishing
guys
some
want to see how
dominance
much
here.
bigger my hand is
Not-
compared to
not
his?
doing that. Mine's obviously a lot bigger than yours.
It's not.
Get out of here.
It's like brothers
So-
here.
Anyway, with that said, we get people that come in and they pick up a towel, like an Eagle, and they're like blown away that it's not sticking to their hand and flopping around in the wind.
even with
So-
a very rough hand.
even with a very rough hand. So
Yeah.
that's keep that in mind.
This is right. So don't boil your microfibers because you are melting those little fingers.
And
Yeah.
I know comments on here, there's going to be some debate about that because there are people who swear up and down they boil their microfiber and that it's just fine. Maybe in some freak scenarios it turns out okay, but the reality is we recommend 140 degrees
Well, we
Fahrenheit
recommend it
as the
because
max
that's
ceiling for
manufacturer's
where you go, because
recommendation.
when we talk with the factories, they've reiterated time and time again that's the safe limit. That's what they recommend. And obviously you could potentially, because of whatever melting point of particular fibers on that given day in that given environment, may be higher, but the safe limit is 140, and there's no reason for you to exceed
It's like
that.
the
You don't
weight. It's like the
have
weight
to.
capacity
There's
on
no
a bicycle.
There's
right?
no
Like,
real benefit to doing that. And once again, I know somebody's going to argue with me. Yeah, there's a benefit. It gets the waxes out or whatever. There are other ways to get chemicals and waxes and all that stuff out of your towels without freaking frying them.
Yeah.
okay, like I was saying though, it's like a bike, right? It's got a weight limit of let's just say 150 pounds, right?
Yeah.
Could a 170-pound guy get on that bike? Yeah, you
Yeah.
could, but that seat could snap off, and how you can have a rod go straight up through you. Oh God!
yeah, you could.
Well,
No, but
sorry, that was very visual. But,
But it's true. Like
Yeah.
we can't.
there could be.
Like
a
I
bad
said,
case
the reason
scenario.
we say 140, like we said, manufacturer's recommendation. I can't go into everybody's house and check your water heater.
Not anymore. Like you used
Well,
to be
I
able
used to be able to go into.
He had a
people's
master
houses.
key.
I
It
never
was
had
really
any
creepy.
Problems. They just let me
We're
in.
past that. We took it
Just
away
here to
from
check
him.
your water heater, folks.
Excuse
Why are
me.
you in our safe? I don't know. I thought that's where the water heater was.
Yeah,
Apparently, it's not.
I'm sorry. Your pockets are really full. No, they
No,
aren't.
I don't know what you're talking about. So
Water is a precious resource.
Yeah, But I can't go into your house and check your water heater. I can't check the thermostat on it.
Right.
So I don't know. You may be just fine. You may be at 130 degrees as your max. Perfect.
Yeah.
That's fine. Then use hot. I don't care. But the point is 140 degrees.
Have to.
Yeah.
That's the point.
You don't have to do that to get the towels clean. You can wash them in cold. You can wash them in warm. And then
White
you don't have to
distilled
worry.
vinegar.
And then it's simple and easy and nobody has to worry about it.
Right.
And you will have a good towel that is clean and
So,
cared for.
yeah, long story short, there are other ways to clean your towels than turning the heat all the way up and just setting them on fire.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Oh, by the way, don't set your towels on fire.
Yeah,
Bad
don't do that
idea.
Don't do that either. Yeah, it's gonna be
Not very good.
it's gonna have a bad time.
They are essentially plastic, so yeah.
All right.
Any rate, moving
Tim,
on.
bring the next one in.
All right. The next one is interior cloth versus leather on our YouTube channel.
Okay. Oh,
So
this
is an
one's for
old,
you, Levi.
This is an old detax that Ivan and I did.
New
Dan
comment.
and I did.
Yeah. New comment on an
Yeah.
old detox.
New comment on an old detox.
But this is definitely Levi's territory.
Simon Hopper, I have heard you talk of Yes Fabric. So I look it up as I drive a Ford and my wife too, 08 F-150 and a 13 Fusion. I can't find anything on the Fords, but do find the Yes site for Kia, and it states that they are stain resistant and releases what does stain and what not. But I have heard they are horrible. Lol. Are they the same, or did they fix the old issue of hard to remove stains?
Did you guys understand this? I'm having a hard time.
Basically,
understanding
he
this.
got.
Well, he's
he
typing
looked up
with
the
an
Yes
accent,
Essential
so-
Fabric. So all the manufacturers used a different version. Primarily, Kia, Hyundai, Chrysler used Yes Essentials exclusively. Nissan created their own with a factory, created their own recycled water bottle fiber.
But it's in the same vein.
It's in the
of
same vein.
material.
Ford did the same thing. Every manufacturer after model year 06, usually 06, 07 was the last of the model years of the previous generation. All those cars started changing over. They had started, some 04, 05 cars were already in the process of changing over to that fabric, Chrysler specifically.
Yeah.
When all the other manufacturers switched over, they switched over for a period of about 4 or 5 years.
So there's a window there.
There's a window there from between about 07 to 2010, 2011, where companies were exclusively using this fabric. Now, what happened is, you got to remember, people buy a car and they drive it. And usually that first year, they're driving the car, they get it dirty, they take it in to get it detailed. That first detailer that gets the joy of trying to clean those seats goes, well, this is something different I haven't encountered.
Yeah.
It just kind of feels different.
It doesn't clean the same way.
No.
Yeah.
Now you got to remember, most detailers are doing the same method that they've done for a decade or longer on how to clean a fabric. So these first sets of seats were very difficult to clean. The customer then takes it back to the dealership and goes, hey, these seats are stained horribly. I took it in to get it shampooed. They look even worse.
Yeah.
So then the dealership goes, that's weird. They pay another detailer to clean it. The detailer or the dealership then calls the manufacturer and goes, hey, just so you know, because maybe that customer's not satisfied, and the customer's like, my seats are ruined. I need to have them taken care of. You need to replace them. The dealership then makes a claim to the manufacturer and says, hey, we need new seats because these seats aren't clean. The manufacturer goes, oh, okay, that's kind of... But as it compounds and more customers in these cars find out that water stains the seat and leaves a water stain, and the only way to detail and clean them is to create an even gianter water
To
stain.
basically disguise the water stain.
You disguise the water stain with a bigger water stain so that it
And to its
encompasses
credit,
the entire seat.
It works.
It's clean. It looks clean.
good.
Yeah. But it took a while for guys to learn how to do that. It also took a while for the chemical companies to figure out the best way to clean those surfaces. So all these problems compound to the point that the manufacturers who are having to replace or refund or reimburse customers and things and dealerships for this problem go, okay, this is an issue. How do we fix it?
Yeah.
Then they have to do their due diligence and their, try and figure out. They can't just go back to the old fabric.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They can't. They could do that, but then the company looks. It's. You guys got to remember, companies are in an image business as well. It's just like us. We've been out of a certain product.
It sucks.
Not
But there
ideal.
are manufacturing problems
Yeah.
that go through, and we have to wait for that to get happen. It's a supply chain thing. So they want to keep it looking a certain way.
Yeah.
We want to keep things looking a certain way, but we are, also held to a supply chain.
Right.
And so it takes a while. And the same with the dealerships and the manufacturers. It took 4 or 5 years to change.
Cause and effect, and sometimes there's a degree of delay involved.
Yep. It
along the
also
line.
cost.
Mhm.
So
Well,
on
they
the
have to do
higher
an
end-
evaluation.
Yeah, higher
Yeah.
end cars, they notice that more and more people are complaining about it. Lower end cars, not so much. The lower dollar cars, 8, 10, 12, 15.
A lot of it
entry-level.
has to do with the customer
Yeah,
base.
if the economy cars, the people aren't complaining, and it's the same fabric that's in the, let's say like a new 4Runner.
Yeah.
That's a $35,000 vehicle. If a customer's not going to complain about it, but on like a Toyota Yaris, that's a $12,000 vehicle, the customer's, gonna complain more. They're gonna be like, that's kind of weird. It's kind of an inexpensive car. But if that $12,000 car isn't complaining, there's no need to change it. If they're fighting more and more on the $35,000 or $40,000 vehicle, we should probably do something about that, because that's getting expensive. Seats in that are probably more expensive than the 12. On a scale, they're probably not. But that's where that, the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Yeah.
Yes.
Squeaky wheel gets the wheeze.
The squeaky grease gets the wheel.
Yeah.
What?
But anyway, so that's why. So yes, on your Fusion, you probably didn't notice it because it is a 13. And maybe on your F-150, you did notice it because it's an 08. And yes, I do know the 08 Ford F-150s do have that fabric because I've done a ton of them.
You've dealt with it. I'm pretty sure my Volvo has that fabric
your-
as well,
yeah,
because
your
it's an
Volvo-
06, but Ford owned Volvo at the time that car was being made, so it would make sense.
Yeah.
Because it definitely feels the way what I know to be as fabrics in other vehicles, it feels similar.
Right. And
So,
my
even if
06
it's not made by
Elantra
them.
is the end of that model year.
Yeah.
It has the old style fabric.
Okay.
My mother-in-law that same year bought a brand new 07 Elantra
Yeah.
with the new body style
Right.
and that new fabric.
Yeah.
And it was a nightmare. And my car, I can literally spray it with some O&R and a towel and clean the seats because it's very easy to clean.
Yeah.
And those of you that are wondering why I love my 06 Elantra so much, it is literally the easiest type of car to clean. The only flaw is the carpets because it's that old
Yeah.
junky carpet.
Yeah.
But the fabric is very simple and very easy to clean. And the plastics
Yeah.
are very easy to clean and able to release. And that was one of the reasons I bought it, because every 2004, 2005, 2006 Elantra that came through, I was so excited as a detailer
Yeah.
because I knew it was going to be a piece of cake to clean them up.
Yeah.
And I knew that the only hard part on the interior was that carpet. And so
Yeah.
I thought, this is the kind of car I'm going to buy because
Yeah.
it's so simple.
Well, and you know what this whole thing is kind of a testament to is basically you're never too old to learn new tricks, because
Well,
sometimes things will sneak up on you like that, and you'll swear up and down, or you've been taught for a long time that paint is just paint, and interior fabrics are the
Manufacturers
same.
change it.
And the fact of the matter is that stuff does change. While many of the similar, your fundamentals are always important. You gotta learn those, but you have to be willing to adapt.
You do.
Because there are situations where new skills or
Well, and
new
that's-
techniques are required.
And that's one of the reasons the idea exists.
Yeah.
Is we want to be able to have the ability to have a voice for detailers. So we can talk as a group, talk to the manufacturers. We can talk to the industry folks at those areas and go, hey, we're finding that our members are having an issue doing this. And that way, or if we find out, hey guys, so Nissan is doing this now, we can say that to all the members. The members know, hey, we've got, this is why. Here's a trick, and someone can show,
There's power in numbers.
Exactly. And that's the reason for it. And the other reason, you guys probably wonder, like, well, if they all worked so good, why'd they change it? Again, the goal of a business is to always try and drive costs down.
Yeah.
right? And increase profits.
And sometimes regulations play a role when you need to introduce renewables.
And that was the big thing, was the renewable part. And so the goal was, how do we find the ability to say, hey, our car is made out of 45% recycled materials. That's really good for us. That's a good green footprint for our vehicles. Or how are we able to source a fabric or a product that perhaps is made in the USA and not manufactured over here, you know? And so they look for things like that to, one, not only lower their costs, but increase their carbon.
It's good
you know.
PR.
Yeah, increase their green footprint, reduce their carbon footprint.
Yeah.
Yes, and have good PR, be able to market that, show that, and most of the time that fabric was recycled water bottles. Mm-hmm. So for them, it gave them a very unique position to go like, and we've got this new fabric that's amazing. And people go, ooh, that's really cool. Oh, it feels like regular fabric.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's plastic, just like microfiber.
What?
So,
yeah. Well, one other thing, just a fun one. I know there's probably somebody in the audience who knows this one. Remember early to mid 2000s Mercedes with their biodegradable wiring harnesses?
yeah.
That was a fun one.
Yeah, because
people
it's
finding out.
Oh, wait.
Hey,
all the wiring
that's great.
melted.
And they're gone.
Cars are catching on fire.
Oh.
So, anyway, that's why. And there, you know, the key is education. You have to keep yourself abreast to the knowledge of the industry and what's going on and what changes are being made. Many detailers could easily figure this out, searching forums, being on groups. When I was, before all that, for me, learning this stuff was just reading car magazines, reading Car and Driver, reading Road and Track, Motor Trend. I would get subscriptions and I'd just read them, so I always knew what was going on or what changes were being made to the vehicles. I'd read the road test reports because they'd explain, oh, this plastic is very hard, or this thing is very soft, or, you know, we
trying
noticed
out
that
a new interior material,
right.
or
And
a
then
new
when that
paint.
car would come in, I'd already knew that it was this. These new Priuses have a new type of plastic that does not like dressing very well. You know, things like that. So I knew I don't have to dress this because it's not going to do anything.
So it just keeps you from being too surprised by anything.
Exactly. So anyway, next question, Tim.
Yes.
Yeah, good topic, guys. The next question's kind of a fun one from our cool polishing D-Talk.
I included this one just because I wanted Levi to hold his hands right in front of the camera.
This one's on the YouTube channel, our YouTube channel, on the newest episode of Detox Cool Polishing.
With Ivan.
With Ivan LaCroix. And it's from Joseph Connolly. Anthony, what does he say?
He says, Levi, stop moving your hands so much. I am trying to read what you have spelled on your fingers.
Well, Levi.
Joseph, if you're wondering what I have spelled on my knuckles. Joseph, on the top knuckles, it says Cadillac, Cadillac. So one hand says caddy, the other hand says lack. Now, those are on the top knuckles. On the lower knuckles, I have Chop Shop tattooed on there. So when you put it all together, my hands say Cadillac, Chop Shop. Oh, I got to get up in the camera on it?
Yep.
So there's Cadillac, Chop Shop.
Bam.
They're very old, so they're tattoo-wise, they're probably anywhere from between 15 and 20 years old, and your hands wear differently. The skin wears differently on your fingers and hands than it does anywhere else, so they look a little rougher than the rest of them, and these are the lower ones are starting to fade in some spots. People ask, are you ever going to get them touched up? No. I'm just going to let them dissolve and deteriorate.
Bye.
Not all that worried about it. They used to be hot pink and black. So I had hot pink in the sections right here, in the little parts of there. And they were very fanciful little serifs.
Anybody into tattoos knows that hot colors like pink and vibrant colors, they're the first to go.
Yeah, so it faded out. It's gone. But my knuckles... funny story. My knuckles were my third tattoo, and so
that's going like straight for it, basically.
Kind of. Yeah, it's pretty
risky.
Gangster.
Yeah.
I got what was known in the industry as job stoppers as my third tattoo.
Well,
and
can't hide
to
those.
the point I didn't even have sleeves yet, and people were like, "Oh, you went knuckles already?"
That's a bold choice.
I did.
It's also very thin skin there.
Yeah, it hurts really bad
to
get your knuckles done. Actually, the pinky was the worst because it's not a very big bone.
Well, it's just that constant vibration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
You got to be
That's
watching this. If you're listening to this on the podcast, I apologize. You got to be watching this on YouTube, on the Rag Company podcast YouTube channel. You can actually see what he's been showing. But yeah,
my kids don't really even figured out that I have tattoos now. But
it doesn't register. They just look at other people and go, "Why does that guy look so blank?"
Basically, yeah, they just don't see it. My daughter, she goes, my little boy. He's learning his alphabet, and so he's like, "Hey, you got an A there." I'm like, "Yep, for Augie."
You figured it
he's
out.
like, "Cool." He doesn't think anything else because of the other
That's
letters
kind of
or
adorable.
anything. So yeah, but anyway, so yes, those were. I went hardcore and got knuckles done, and that was 2000. Man, what year was that? 2000.
Early 2000s, yeah.
It was 2000. It was the summer of 2002. I had my knuckles done. So yeah,
It's
good
hard
times.
imagining
what were
him
you guys
without
doing,
tattoos.
Summer of 2002. How old were you guys?
I just moved here. I was in junior high.
There we go. All right. So
Living
Well,
life.
all right, Tim. What do we got
get
next?
my knuckles tattooed, smoking cigarettes.
We're clearing up mysteries left and right. This is great.
Right. So the next comment is on our GSM and use video with Pan.
So we can't see it.
Okay, so it says, this is from Gregory. He says, "Hey, Rag Company, is there a reason that terry weave towels always or almost always have two different length piles on either side? I know that it doesn't increase the utility of the towel, but that it is not my preference. Is there a technical reason, say the Edgeless 300, couldn't have identical piles on both sides? Because I would buy those."
The Edgeless 300
Hand me that red towel.
technically does have the same pile.
Well, but he means like when a terry where
Yeah.
it's a little fluffier on one side and it's a little tighter
So
weave
let's
on
go
the
ahead.
other
We're gonna
side.
go ahead and examine this. We're on the YouTube
This is a
channel here.
245.
That's a
We pulled
245.
245 Edgeless.
So I know what you're talking about. So
Yep.
one side does have a little bit longer fingers, I guess you should say,
Yeah.
than the
It's
other side.
marginal.
It's
bald.
very.
Honestly,
very
I think
marginal.
that's just the way the
I think it's
fabric
manufactured.
it is woven. I think that's just the way they use the yarn. And I think one side, because they're using one side as a backing and the other side is kind of your your backing, meaning also it's microfiber and it's still that same yarn, but they have to start from somewhere and end somewhere. I mean, honestly, I don't think I've ever felt a microfiber towel.
We'll
that
find
was
out, and we can get back
perfect
to you on
on
that.
both
But I
sides.
will say that there are, the same on both sides. They get it pretty close. If you're buying like the 365, most people don't even notice that it's a dual pile, but it
Yeah.
actually is.
Yeah.
And the 300 specifically, I mean, that's pretty.
'Cause this is a
intense.
245 in front of us right now that I'm looking at.
Yeah.
And I'm looking on one side, and because the terry weave, the fingers are a little bit more prominent, but on the other side, they're still there, and they look close to the same length. It just looks like they lay flatter than
And
the
that
other
might just
side.
be the way
It's
it's
a
woven.
tighter pattern, and to me, the way I've always understood it when it comes to this stuff is basically it is part of the construction process involves it going basically back and forth through like that.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have one side that's a little fluffier,
Well,
and then the other side's a little tighter.
if you've ever taken a thread and you're in your knitting something, if you ever knitted anything, or, I don't know, maybe I'm weird, but I've knitted things before in the past, and I've known that one side is a little bit different than the other side. I mean, same thing with sewing things together. I don't know. That's just me, but
Well, and I know because we get this question actually quite often in regards to, say, like the Creature or the Spectrum or something like that. People like that fluffy side, and they go, man, if it was just fluffy on both sides, like, the Eagle's fluffy on both sides. A lot of that has to do with the way it's constructed. So with the circular knit, you can do that sort of thing, but just by virtue of the way Terry's constructed, it's going to be that kind of dual pile nature to it.
Yeah.
Now, granted, there probably is some way we could introduce a way to have it be a little fluffier while still being a closed loop
Yeah, but I think he
construction.
wants it the same on both sides. So he wants it tight and short.
And realistically, I don't think the performance difference is going to be substantial enough to justify a
The
whole
cost,
new towel.
like for the cost of it and the fact it doesn't, I don't know, it might work on some types of towels like our 800, which is the same on both sides, or like our circular knits, which are the same. Those are unique to themselves. But if we were to go like, ooh, here's an ultra plush long nap or a short nap, well, at that point, go with our pearl weave because the pearl is a.
Honestly, the
that same
pearl
on
is the
both sides.
closest you're going to get to
Yeah.
having, because the pearl's not a terry, but it's similar in the sense that it's a very low pile, very short pile, and the pearl is very similar on each side.
Yeah.
Compared to like a terry. That's probably the closest you're going to get, but I suspect he wants the fluffy side on both sides rather than the tight side.
never know.
So, hey, if you're looking for something like that, the pearl may be the ticket for you.
All right, next one, Tim.
Okay, so the next comment's on that same video there. And there it is.
GSM, episode 2, GSM in use. I am torn by Fenway Mark. Go Sox. I'm torn between the black diamond and the premium glass towel. Any advantages to either or that you're aware of? Better results for different uses? Actually, Mark, if you would have watched the episode, we did explain that.
Man, you're going to throw him under the bus like that.
You need to rewatch it, bud, if you missed it. Basically, that is the key to the black diamond versus other glass towels. The black diamond is a pattern on the surface of the towel that does help reduce dry drag.
It puts some distance
The
between
premium
the
glass
base
towel does have
the
a dry
surface.
drag because of the way it's woven.
Yep.
And that weave lends itself to that. That's why we always recommend using the glass towel wet. But for those folks that really love a dry towel to wipe up everything, that's all they want. That's what the black diamond was developed for, is to reduce that dry drag. So it is a similar type of waffle pattern, but it is a diamond shape, and that is why it's there. It gives it less surface area on this able to touch.
And I actually did respond to his comment with my own comment a little after I, screenshotted this and put it into the thing. But basically, I was telling him to look forward to us talking about it in the video here. But also, in my response, because I see this pretty often, people get confused because there's so many glass towel options.
Right.
But there's a reason why each one exists, because personal preference takes people many different directions.
Yeah, and I said it today. We make 6, 7 different types of glass towels. We have 7 different glass towels. The reason is we have over 150 different types of microfiber towels. We distribute to over 50 countries around the world. There are a number of people who like different uses for glass towels. Some people use them for houses. Some people use them only for mirrors. Some people use them for paint. Some people use them for glass. Some people there's so many uses for it, and each one is unique and specific. So we develop so many different versions to satisfy all the different needs, wants, and uses of the masses.
And before somebody says something about, oh, this is just like XYZ company that makes 7 different soaps where they just smell different, but they all do the same thing. It's different with towels because there is a fundamental difference in the way they perform, given the situation, given the products you're using, any number of factors. And it comes down to personal preference. For me, I really like the premium glass towels, and I have for a long time. And I always tell people this. I go, it's a love it or hate it towel. Mm-hmm. I love it because of the end result.
Yeah.
However,
I love it because I get it wet.
People hate it when they hate it because that dry drag, when it grabs, and it grabs a lot. But the whole reason it grabs is because it's function. It's doing a really good job clearing that surface area. However, you are introducing quite a bit of friction because there's just not a whole lot of surface area on the towel that's not touching surface area on the glass or whatever it is you're working on, or chrome in some cases. But basically, the idea is it creates more friction.
If you think about it, it's like the palm of your hand running across the surface. So it's going to have more drag rather than maybe your fingers running across.
Yeah, it's just less surface area.
That's all. That's the difference between the diamond and the...
And basically, that's what the diamond does, is the diamond introduces those little raised diamond, design in it, which gives you a little bit of perforation. Not as much as a waffle, but it gives you just enough that you have a lot more free movement. Because in the past, before the black diamond existed, we'd usually tell people, if you don't like the premium glass style of towel or the standard glass style of towel, look at a waffle weave. You'll get similar results. You may have to work and cover up maybe a streak or two here or there, but for the most part, it's going to do what you want, and it's not going to fight you. Because that's the big thing is some people are willing to put up with that, like window cleaners. They love the premium standard glass because they're looking for that flawless finish.
Yeah.
But other people are just cleaning their car for therapeutic reasons. It doesn't feel very therapeutic when you got to fight a towel.
That's why I like soaking it. I just put in a bucket of O&R, soak that towel, wring it out, use it wet.
Lubrication makes a difference,
and
too.
It's done. And then I go over it, dry it with a 245. Or glass mitt. Smitten
So
glass
yeah,
mitt.
I know it always upsets people, but different strokes for different folks.
That's right. Okay, next one, Tim.
Next one.
Awesome. So this next one's a pretty good question about washing towels here.
Ooh. Okay.
Borders and Edges, episode 3.
The Pan Understanding Microfiber
Yeah.
series.
Oz Caddy. Anthony, your turn.
All right. Should I try to do this in a
No, just do it.
Good day, guys. Regarding drying the towels. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. So he says, good day, guys. Regarding drying the towels after they have been washed, in Australia, a high percentage of people, that's more like a British, a high percentage of people like myself dry their clothes outside in the sun and usually on a rotary clothesline that freely rotates in the breeze. Drying the towels this way, will it have any effect on the fibers? Lay flat, as the towels are not tumbled or fluffed up like they do in a dryer. Another good episode on the towels with Pan. Cheers, Stephen from Sydney, Australia.
Thank you, Stephen.
Yeah, nice. Stephen, no, it's not going to hurt him at all. But yes, it is going to have an effect on the fibers. They will lay flat because the towels are not tumbled or fluffed up like they do in a dryer. So what you do, snap them.
Yeah.
Take
Give
the
him a good
towel
shake.
out and just shake it and, snap it and get it all over there in Anthony's face.
Ah, God. It's in
And
my
that'll-
mouth.
That'll fluff up. The
Sometimes
towel.
you need a fluffer for certain things, and this helps really kind of just stand up the fibers and gets things really plumped up.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
ready to be used.
ready to be used and ready for action. I mean, that's kind of what a fluffer was intended for. But anyways, that's long story short. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yep.
It's a simple technique. That's what we'll do if we hang dry towels around here on the shop.
Yeah,
we'll
just
just
give 'em a
grab them,
snap.
give them a
Yeah,
snap.
because some
they're ready
people
to go.
they'll air dry their towels and they go, I followed the instructions. I air dried them because they said that's the safest way. Yes, it's the safest way, but they don't look the same. They look kind of matted down.
Yeah.
It's like, well, give them a good shake.
No,
I mean,
yeah, like,
some of it's
I-
pretty common sense, but
And when we were testing the new Eagles, I took one and just set it in a bucket of water because I wanted to, see if the red would leach,
Yeah.
if the dye would leach. Left it in a bucket of water for about a week and then wrung it out.
yeah,
And then just hung it up here in our office on like the back of a chair and let it sit, and then went home for the weekend, came back, and it was still in the shape that it had dried in. And all I did was take it out, snap it around a couple times, and unravel it, and it was back to normal. Nice, soft, fluffy, fibers are up, everything. It was fun. I
Yeah.
was like, it was satisfying,
Oh, yeah.
honestly, because you're like, this looks really good now. So
And I'll admit, at home, I machine dry my stuff, but I use the air fluff setting. I set it on a low temperature heat
So you
for
have
about
you have a fluffer at home
for about 5 to
And
10
well,
minutes.
it's actually a machine fluffer,
It's
and
a
so
machine fluffer.
I mean,
That's
that's
pretty
pretty.
nice.
It does the work for
sophisticated.
me.
That's
Okay,
yeah.
very
well,
impressive.
Set it
Didn't
and
know
forget
that.
it.
Didn't know
Come
that.
back,
Oh.
and you're ready to rock.
All
wow.
right.
Okay, well,
Next one, Tim.
took it there.
All right. So the next one here is a pretty good question on microfiber in general.
All right.
Okay.
Ooh, an old school detox. How to wash your microfiber towels with Mr. Gates and Mr. LaCroix.
Dane, I want Dane to read this.
All right. Well,
All right. Jim
I will-
Davidson, here we go.
All right. So, Jim Davidson leaves a comment, and this is the comment that I saw this morning that I just couldn't not
too
include.
good.
It was
Thank
too
you,
good. I honestly
Jim.
wasn't sure if this guy was joking or if he was being serious because there's some
Should
parts
send
that
him a
make me
prize.
question. But I know for a fact that there are people out there who think this way, so we're just going to roll with it.
All right.
Let's take him at his word. All right. So, Jim Davidson says, "Remember back in the day when everyone used cotton towels? Now you're an alien if you use one. Funny thing is, cotton actually absorbs things like water, waxes, and dirt. Now, the new superstar of the week, microfiber towels, are made from plastic thread. Plastic doesn't absorb anything, stupid Americans. Take a plastic Coke bottle and rub it on your hood. How much water does it soak up? Hello? Only in America. You can take a non-absorbent product and the entire country falls in love. Oh, these microfibers are the best. It's a freaking towel, people."
Okay, first off,
Thanks, Jim.
There's
first
so
off,
much going on
Jim,
here. Just
okay, no wonder you're not absorbing anything with a Coke bottle because it's not a Pepsi bottle. If that was
Yeah,
a Pepsi bottle, you'd
Well,
have
it was
much
can I
a
point out that
Pepsi
a bottle is designed to contain
Liquids?
liquids?
Yeah.
It's not supposed to let it through or out or anything
Yeah,
like that.
That
so
is true. So that's your first flaw. Should have been a Pepsi bottle. And second, it was a bottle. So that doesn't work. Second, Yes, you're right. Microfiber towels are made from plastic thread, but the difference is the content of polyamide. So 100% polyester is plastic, and it is not going to absorb anything.
Can I also just point out, when it comes to plastic, plastic isn't just plastic. There are so many different kinds of plastic.
Yep.
When you start looking into bottling and things like that, it's nuts the amount of options that
We're
are out there.
learning all kinds of stuff.
So just like microfiber has a variety of, just you wouldn't think it, but it's out there, crazy varieties. Same thing goes for plastic in general, containers, you name it. So we can't take things at a name basis and just say they're all the same.
Now, polyester, we said 100% polyester will not absorb. There are microfiber towels made out of 100% polyester. You can find them at your local Home Depot. They do not absorb water at all. And we've had a company send us some that they thought were the greatest towels at absorbing. They sent us some. They're 100% polyester. Let's just say we all had a good laugh
They
here in the
look
office.
really good.
Tried
They look
cleaning.
nice.
Tried cleaning my glasses for 17 minutes.
We'll just push
Just
the water
You were
around.
just
water.
smearing and smudging. It was bad.
So polyamide is the magic ingredient in microfiber towels that allows it to absorb water.
Yeah.
And the higher you increase the polyamide, the more absorbent the towel is. So 80-20 microfiber, 80% polyester, 20% polyamide is 7 times more absorbent than a cotton towel. Cotton on its own only absorbs 4 times its weight in liquid. Microfiber, 80-20 blended microfiber, absorbs 7 times its weight in liquid. Now, you can increase the weave like we do with like a waffle weave, that then can increase that to hold more, like 8 or 9 times its weight, or we can add more polyamide to it. And now a 70-30 blended towel is going to hold anywhere between 8 and 10 times its weight in water. Then we increase it even more by mixing fibers together or weaves together, utilizing something like our pluffle, which holds 11 times its weight in water, because it is not only a long pile circular knit weave, so it's got a lot of extra surface area, but then it's combined with the extra surface area of a pluffle, or the waffle weave, thereby increasing it, allowing it to get an 11. Then you jump into something like our twist loop towels and that twist loop pattern. Twist loop microfiber, and it's not just us, everybody else that makes it, if it's a 70-30 blend and it's a twist loop, that is an absolute massive increase of surface area.
Oh, it's a monster. Yeah.
And it can absorb up to anywhere from that 11 to almost 14 times its weight, possibly.
Which is
It
nuts.
absorbs an insane amount of water. And I heard this comment a lot at the car wash show. We'd have old folks, and a lot of it was old guys. They were using cotton towels, and they didn't understand why they had to use microfiber, because I picked up a microfiber towel from the local Home Depot.
Well, some see it as like, oh, it's a new thing I have to learn. Screw that. I don't want to.
Well, and it's not a new thing, folks. Microfiber was invented in 1994.
No. It's been around since the 70s.
It has been around since the 70s, but it came to the U.S. in 94. It's left Japan. But it was being developed because polyester was already a thing. Polyamide was already a thing. They just started combining the two. And in Japan, it was very popular, this fabric.
Yeah.
And yes, it is new because it is starting to translate into the households of the U.S. More and more people are starting to use it for everyday use. You walk through a Walmart, new kitchen cloths that they have in the grocery section, just hanging on a rack, they're microfiber. They're not a very high-quality microfiber, but they are microfiber. And it's just like, if you guys remember when the U.S. stopped carrying incandescent bulbs. Do you remember that? And
people were mad. People were hoarding
people were really
incandescent
mad
bulbs.
because they were mad about the fluorescent bulbs, because they were buying.
They swore they were worse, and in some cases
they
were.
They were, because they like. I drive by. I've got a friend of mine who I drive by his house. He puts the daylighter bulbs in his reading lamps at his house.
Yeah.
So you drive by and you're like, wow, your house looks like an office building.
It's oppressive.
It's a very weird
On
light,
the eyes.
right? Yeah. And he's like, he doesn't know, and it doesn't bother him.
No.
And so there were people that were buying. My mother-in-law was one of them. She would buy those lamps, those bulbs, and she hated it.
Yeah.
Absolutely hated it. She's like, they're just worthless. Then we got her soft white.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, "Oh, these are just like my incandescent
Like cool
bulbs."
white or
Yeah.
warm or
Yeah, a warm white, soft white made it nice. So it's just that people weren't educated on the color spectrum that light puts out and which bulbs they were buying. It's the same as microfiber. People are buying and utilizing cheap quality microfiber
and then painting the entire thing with a broad brush going, they all suck.
Right. They're maybe grabbing those 100% polyester microfiber towels from Home Depot and going, these things don't absorb.
And in fairness, there are some places, big box stores, whatever, where you can find some that maybe go up to like 80-20. But generally, when it comes to the cheaper microfibers, that's where they stop.
And again, guys, literally,
I have not seen 70-30 outside of like high quality.
I enjoy this so much. Anytime I see a microfiber pack, I flip it over to see if I can find it. It's my game. I want to see what that blend is, and it is amazing to see what passes as a blend.
Yeah.
And sometimes it looks like it's basically fiber and more polyester. I'm like, this basically feels like it's all polyester, especially when you read the back and it's like 50% polyester and 75% biconstitute fiber and
biconstituent
2% polyamide. It's like, so is that 98% polyester?
Yeah. You raise a good point, though, because some people get confused when they have the blends listed on the back of some of these towels that are out there. It's not just a polyester to polyamide ratio. Sometimes there's other types of materials or certain, whatever, that are introduced into the blend, and they give you the percentage if they're, decent enough to offer that, which hopefully most are. Generally, in my experience, you see it a lot. But yeah, you'll see biconstituent fiber, things like that. Those aren't helping the absorption, in case you were wondering.
No.
But yeah, it's usually, it says something like nylon or something like that.
Yeah, nylon on there. Yeah. Like there's all kinds, but it's the polyamide. So seriously, treasure hunt next time you're at Walmart with your wife and kids, or maybe your wife and you're listening and you're at Walmart or you're at Home Depot or something. Walk through the cleaning aisle, walk through the microfiber towel aisle, just grab a pack, flip it over, and read it. And I guarantee you may not find anything greater than 80-20 in those big box stores. And you'll be lucky when you do find an 80-20.
My personal opinion, I work at a microfiber company, yes. But if given the choice between a 100% polyester microfiber towel and a cotton towel, I'm taking the cotton towel.
Yeah. Yeah, because
that's literally the only scenario
where
the
cotton will absorb more.
But it will absorb more in that very limited scenario. So
anyway,
just putting that one out there.
Hope you guys enjoyed that.
That was fun.
What's next, Tim?
All right.
The next comment is from the auto detailing subreddit.
Here we go. Yeah. Okay. So I was just kind of fishing around the auto detailing subreddit, seeing if there's any relevant stuff that had come up, and sure enough, we've gone over this kind of stuff before. I figure Levi can weigh in on this one. And
is it safe to clay bar after a wash and wax product? Is it okay to clay bar the car after using a wash and wax product? I'm confused because the process is to clay first, then wax. But my car wash soap claims to have wash and wax properties. So I don't know how legit the wax is and if it defeats the purpose of the clay after the fact. It's not going to hurt it. It's just you might have to wax it afterwards because you're going to probably remove whatever leftover wax is on it.
This is where people start
let me just put it this way: we're out of problems. Yeah. If that's what you're worried about.
Well, so
no, I'm just kidding.
Here's how I would tackle this. Right, this is just me thinking. Wash and wax. Right. Okay. So if it was me doing this, I would wash the car first with wash and wax. Right. Get it all cleaned up. Right. And then I would just give it another wash with the same stuff and just clay it.
Yeah. Because you were using it as a lubricant.
Yeah, and use that wash and wax as a lubricant, and then basically...
Or put it in a spray bottle and spray the car down with it.
Same thing. And then wipe it down or do whatever you want to do, just because basically you're already, with the wash and wax, your paint's already being leveled with whatever wax properties that wash and wax product is leaving behind, correct. And then and then you dry it, and then if you wash it again, or if you use it in a spray bottle and you begin claying it, you're going to remove a little bit of something, but if you're using that same product as the lubrication, you're going to refill that area
in a sense, you're decontaminating. But you're also going to be taking down the ridges that are in that. So if you think of your paint as like a mountain range, where it's ridges and peaks and valleys, as they say, wax goes in and fills all the valleys. That's
thus
the
creating
purpose.
a look.
That's the purpose of the wax.
Mm-hmm.
Clay is to help knock down some of those ridges
Contaminants,
and
yeah.
the contaminants that are in the paint, and then polishing smooths down the rest of those ridges to try and bring those ridges down. And we're not just mowing them right off, not chopping them off at the top. We're actually kind of opening them up a little more, if that
Just
makes
kind of
sense.
rounding
the
the
edges,
sharp
so to
edges.
speak.
So, for example, like we
Than tricking your eye.
we promote the optimum wash clay wax, right? Where we basically you wash the car with no rinse, and then you take your optimum spray wax, and you take your optimum clay towel, and then you clay and wax at the same
You use
time.
the wax as your lube.
And you use the wax as your lube. We're talking the same thing here, except the lube that you're using still has the soap properties in it. So you might want to respray down that panel with some water and just wipe it off.
Yeah. Now, you can use O&R wash and wax,
Yeah.
and you can mix it to a clay lube.
Yeah.
Because it has the same wax in it.
Has the same car wax in it. The difference is it is in a less of a
Yes.
concentration.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're not getting as much car wax as you
Right.
normally would.
Correct.
But the goal of that is to be a maintenance product.
yeah.
So it's designed to be used weekly and washed.
You're
and
using
every
it more
time
frequently.
Every time you're doing it, you're doing some benefit to it. So yes and no, but Anthony's right. If it's a wash and wax soap, you probably should rinse it and clear the surface again.
Yeah.
Because that's what that stuff's designed for, and it would leave the wax behind. If you're using O&R wash and wax, I'd mix it to clay lube dilution 1:28:1. And then I'd probably just re-wet the surface again with O&R wash and wax and dry it, because with wash and wax, you're going to get more streaking than
Yeah.
you would with the normal
And remember,
O&R.
and with O&R wash and wax, it's a rinseless wash still, so you can wipe it dry, and you don't have to worry about rinsing it off at the end. Whereas if you're using soap,
Yeah.
wash and wax, you would want to rinse that off and not leave that soap on the surface.
Yeah.
So
And for
that's-
those,
Yeah, I would just clean it just to remove any leftover contamination on the paint.
and for those wondering why, like, say, for example, O&R wash and wax contains a less concentrated form of the spray wax that they're known for, it should be obvious why, because it's in a wash product.
Yeah.
But that's basically
and and their wax is pretty strong, so if you sprayed
Yeah.
it on the surface and left it on, you'd be polishing it off or scraping it off.
When it hardens, it's really hard.
Yeah. So that's kind of the reason for it. It's got a lot of body, so we're able to use it in that wash clay wax version, one step. But yeah, no, it's very diluted in the O&R mixture. So
All
anyway,
right.
hope that helps.
Yeah, awesome topic. So the next comment here is on the auto detailing subreddit as well about clay.
Uh-huh.
After clay bar cleaning, do I need to polish the car, or is it okay to leave it like that? Well, that depends on you and what you did. If you used a very aggressive clay bar, if the paint was badly contaminated and had a lot of stuff that you had to actually rub pretty hard to get off, remember, any friction that you put on the surface, you are marring the surface. When we did our wash clay wax video with the car, and the process that I used to do for most of my customers was just a wash clay wax, and I did it all in one step, and we've made our video on it, and I've shown how the process works.
It still upsets people.
It
to
still
this
bothers
day.
people, but you guys have to remember, after 20 years of doing a certain technique, my elbows are shot. My wrists hurt, but I know how much pressure I can put on a surface of a car before it mars. Now, yes, all paint's different, and some paints do mar, some paints don't. So in the process that I do, we don't mar the surface of the vehicle. And I've had employees help me do cars, and one of them was my own personal car. I said, we're just going to do a quick wash and clay on it and wax and pull it out. It's coated. I just needed to do a quick clay and wax. And one of my guys, hit 2 panels, and he marred the surface on those 2 panels. And I said, you're using too much pressure. And he goes, sorry. I'm like, I'm not polishing this, but I want the surface clean. And so he went over the rest of the car, did not mar the surface on the rest of the vehicle, was able to get it clean, smooth, feeling great, was able to remove the contamination that I had been feeling. So you can go back over it with your hand in a plastic bag and you can feel it. And I only polished those 2 panels to fix them. But again, it was very, very light marring, and it wasn't a big issue.
Well, and when you're
But it's technique.
when you're using the clay medium, whether you're using a bar or a towel or a mitt, whatever you're
using a fine grade clay helps.
Yeah, you're using a fine grade, so you're reducing the likelihood that you introduce marring. And yeah, the marring is a risk if you use too much pressure, but I mean, you should only be using enough pressure to be able to hold whatever your medium is against the paint.
The clay
Anything
should
more
be
than
doing
that
the clay should be doing
is
the work.
too much.
You shouldn't be.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, you've done it. You haven't had issues with it.
Yeah. So I mean, but it's a technique thing
Yeah.
that it takes time to learn.
It's 100% technique, and if you don't have that technique, yes, you will mess it up.
That's where I've tried to give as much information as I can in the videos that we produce where we clay bar cars and things like that. It's just, for example, if you were to go down to your big box store and go pick up a clay kit, right?
Yeah.
They give you a clay lube. They give you a fine clay. It's typically a white clay or Mother's.
Most of the
McGuire's.
time, you're always going to get a fine grade clay from any manufacturer that's selling direct to a consumer.
They're not going to give you a monster pumice stone that's
they
going to
don't
go
want
and
you
destroy
damaging your
everything.
paint.
Correct. So, but with that said, though, right, they give you this clay lube. You spray it on, you take your clay, and you start rubbing it through, right? I would say 9 out of 10 times you're going to find somebody that forgets to spray a certain area.
Yep.
They're going to take that clay that's already loaded with contamination. They're going to go to a dry spot.
Or they're not checking their clay. They're not melding their clay around to try and find a clean area.
And they're going to mar it. And they're going to sit there. Or if it's not marred, right, necessarily, I personally... I will admit that I have had a piece of clay that had contamination that I didn't realize was on it, and it did scratch it. It did scratch the surface.
On clay towels, a lower quality clay towel. I tried to save a few bucks. I used a nanoskin. I loved it, but nanoskin mitts and towels are expensive.
Yeah.
And a guy came up and said, "Hey, I got those new clay towels, and they're only like $10."
So you're starting to
and
wonder,
I thought, well, that'd be pretty dope if he had them for $10. That'd be pretty good. And I'd been using his sponges, and I liked his sponges.
Mm-hmm.
So I grabbed one of
always
the
looking for
and I
a
was like,
deal.
the sponges are killer for production detailing because you're going to polish the car anyway, right? On a production one, if you're just claying to get the surface clean, and you're going to be doing a 1-step or 2-step, it doesn't matter if you mar the surface or not. It's just how much more work are you going to be putting into it. But I thought, a clay towel would be great for maintenance.
Yeah.
But it was a cheap clay towel, and it did some damage to a car, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I felt the clay towel again. There was a very hard poured part of clay that was the clay itself that messed it up. And so things like the new Optimum Ultra clay towel is beautiful.
So what I want to get to is what I was trying to say is that basically taking that average consumer grade clay bar, once you hit a dry spot, right, you could scratch, you could mar, but what often happens more times than not, you'll leave that clay rub. It's like
clay.
a rub.
It's literally just clay on the surface.
It's like a little smudge.
You've left a smudge there, right? And what most people don't know is they see that and they're like, "Oh crap!" So they take their fingernail and they start scraping at it,
and they
or
scratch
they
the
take
surface.
and they scratch the surface. When really you just need to really relube that area and lightly brush over it to recollect that clay.
Yeah.
And it's difficult because that happens so often. But through education and through trial and error, I've found, right, lubrication, obviously number one, right? The best way to spread that lubrication has not been in a sprayer for me. It has been in the IK multi-sprayer. Like straight up, I'm not trying to plug a product here, but that on the mist setting, like I've said before, misting the whole car and getting that morning dew effect has literally changed the way I've clayed.
Yeah.
I am never having to re-hit that trigger. I'm never having to spray it.
Well, and some people they don't know how to handle a trigger. They do the hardest, biggest jet of liquid, and it's not putting any liquid on the surface.
And that's like 8 out of 10 people that does that. They're not misting the surface. So to make things easier, like we did with the recent Wash Wednesday, is I put it on the mist setting, on the IK sprayer. I misted the surface, created that dew, but I love it because it also gives me a tracking system of knowing where I have and haven't clayed. And there's so much lubrication on the surface, I never have to respray that area once I get started. Now, going to the Optimum Ultra Clay Towel, I will admit that is the best clay material I've ever used.
It blows the nanoskin away.
It is the best clay material I've ever used, and I have always thought to myself, on my own car, right, because I have a coated car, I have OptiCoat Pro Plus, right, eventually I'm going to have to clay the car. I'm probably going to get some contamination.
You don't drive the car a lot, but recommended if you're driving it every day, Optimum recommends you clay it once a year.
And I'm going to have to do it eventually, right? But in my head, being a detailer, knowing, oh God, if I clay the car, it's going to mar, I know I can't polish it necessarily because I have a coating on there, and I don't want to take that risk.
But technically, the
of
coating
removing...
should be hard enough that it shouldn't mar because
right,
of the, right.
It's
That's our brains. That's how our brains work.
It's this whole thing that goes in my head, and it goes back and forth. What is the proper way of doing this, right? And it wasn't until I made that system up, or I didn't want to say I made the system up, where I found the system of using the IK Multi as that mist setting, and then also using the Optimum Ultra Clay Towel, being it that it is a superior clay feel, that I know that it's not going to mar, because the Wash Wednesday that we did, right?
Yeah.
Before going into it, I didn't tell anybody this. I did so much inspection on this particular paint with this scan grip lighting. I'm like, this area looks perfect, and we haven't even touched it yet. I am going to clay this using the system that I've learned from, and I want to see what kind of damage it does, if it is going to do any damage at all. I inspected afterwards, literally no marring, no clay marks, no swirls, no scratches. And it was just because of, again, I'm not putting a ton of pressure. I'm putting just resting the towel on there, resting my hand, and gliding it across, right? I'm using proper lubrication. That's it. I mean,
too many people.
It sounds easier than what it really is. I mean, it's
and the key is with clay. You let the clay do the work. You don't do the work. So you let the clay. You just guide the clay over the surface, or the clay towel over the surface. You let it work, and you use your ears to hear if it's removing the contamination, and if it's not, you go back over it. Yeah. And you just use your ears. If you have to use your hand, and you have to rub and press and go super slow and just try and gotta get that stuff out, you're gonna mar, you're gonna cause damage.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
If you hear a voice in the back of your head going, put your back into it, tell that voice to go away.
Yeah. You shouldn't be putting your back into it. You should just be working out. You just work that movement. My elbow hurts. Just do that movement back and forth to try and that's it. It should just be the clay working for you. That's what you bought it for. That's why you pay it. Let it work.
Yes.
It's not cheap.
If you reach a particular kind of contamination that's going to require a little bit more work or something, you may have to adjust your technique.
Exactly.
Try something like the razor decon, like we talked about, if it's something like that.
Or if it's not coming off with fine grade, then you increase the clay.
Right.
And you get a medium grade.
But make sure your lubrication is
such. Or maybe you chemically decontaminate it first, and then you go back to claying it, because maybe the chemical can remove it faster than you can.
Also true.
And you save your body.
Yeah.
There's differences in that level. And if it's that heavily, if it's got that much contamination on it, and you're not breaking through it, two things. You need to reevaluate what you charge this customer.
Right.
Because you're in for it.
It's special circumstances.
Yep. Because now you're going to have to increase your clay, which means you are going to mar the surface, which means you are going to have to polish it afterwards.
You're going to use more product.
Yeah. And that, again, goes back to inspecting cars before you name a price. Inspect the car and look at it and go, okay, let me try a quick test spot. We always talk about test spots for correction. Do a test spot for clay, guys. Just hit a one spot, wipe it, especially if they're coming in for overspray. Or, hey, my paint's really rough. I want to get it clayed and waxed. Do a quick test spot and go, okay, cool. Yeah, no, it'll be perfect. I can get it done. You don't have to give away the secret. Do a little, barely a foot section.
So basically, to answer this, you shouldn't have to polish after you clay bar if you're using proper lubrication and not too much pressure. But if you run into an event where that's the case and you feel the need to polish, make sure if it's for a customer that you're checking with the customer before you go polishing something and removing more clear coat.
Make sure you get paid for it.
And make sure you're getting paid for it.
And make sure they paid for it.
Yeah, because that's the worst feeling as a detailer, when you don't charge what you should and then you realize that you're now upside down in the job.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's very frustrating, and it doesn't make you a happy detailer.
And customers hate it if you come back to them, hey, sorry, I need to charge you more for that, actually.
Yeah, I couldn't get it all, so I actually had to spend like 5 more hours on it, and I can't just do it for the $125 I
And if anything, be honest and transparent with them, right? If you're doing what you're about to do, right, and you're claying, and you just say, hey, I'm letting you know that there's some stuff that's really on the surface here. This is kind of what you were paying for. This is your option. I can do the best I can and try to clean it up and just call it good. Or if you really want me to go above and beyond, you do have that option as well.
Yeah.
It might cost a little bit more.
And all you got to do, like we said, be honest. If you're honest, 90% of the time you'll get that sale.
Yeah, you will.
They have no problem because and especially if you're doing a test spot with them and you're showing them and you're going, okay, here's what I'm going to do. And maybe you have maybe you have a fine grade clay bar and you've got some clay lube and you just, you wash a little section of a fender, you spray it, you do a little 1 foot section, you dry it off, and you have them feel it, and it's smooth to them, and they're like, wow, that looks amazing. And maybe you spray a little car wax on it, or you take out some paste wax, or however you do it, and you put it on that little spot, and you clean it off for them, and they feel it, and they're excited. And they're like, wow, and maybe you put a plastic bag on, and they can feel the difference between a clayed surface and an unclayed surface, and they're happy, and you can get it done in that process. Awesome. But if you do that process and it doesn't work, and you go, okay, I'm going to have to do this, and you do the next thing. Or maybe you do the razor blade thing, and you work on that, and you're like, okay, here's what's up. This is where we're at. I've had customers pull in that have overspray.
Yeah.
And they've come in, and I've done a test spot because I've never done overspray jobs or tar jobs or anything without doing a test spot first. And I go, I can't do anything. And I've turned the work away. Because I know that I'm going to be too many hours into trying to figure it out, or I don't have the answers for it. I don't know why it's not coming off. I've tried all the products that I have on hand, but I'm going to have to research, and I'm going to have to charge for the research.
And that's more time.
And it may not even work.
Yeah.
And then what do I do for the customer? So it's okay to say no to some jobs and say, you know what? Thanks, but no thanks. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Short of going to a body shop maybe and having this all sanded. And at that point, now we're talking insurance. Maybe they got their house. There was one on YouTube Facebook the other day.
Yeah.
Chris Woolman got a car, came in. Customer literally had stained their deck, sprayed the neighbors. They had their company spray the deck, and it got over the neighbor's car. The neighbor's car was only at home for like 2 minutes. She came home, saw him doing that. She pulled her car into the garage. She touched it. She was like, crap. Hopped out of the garage, headed over to her friend's shop. He touched it. He's like, I don't know. This is bonded. And it's only been on there for 4 or 5 hours.
Nuts.
And he didn't know how to get it off. So that's it's exceeded the detailer's knowledge. So at that point, there's no sense in him continuing to try and work on it. Now, he can help and assist as a good friend and a customer and be like, hey, man, let me call a body shop, see if they can do something, get you some quotes or something that then the insurance company can handle. But it's okay to say no to work.
Yeah.
Especially if you're in over your head. Don't try to fight it.
But all things considered, communication is key.
Yeah,
just
communicate
making
with your
sure
customer, be
you're
nice,
explaining why.
Take it easy.
Yeah.
Don't work too hard on it.
Yeah.
And you'll be a happier detailer.
Yeah.
Man. So we got in depth on that.
That was
one.
a deep one.
What do we
Sorry,
got next,
guys.
Tim?
Let's dig ourselves out of this hole.
So the next comment is from one of our previous podcasts.
Okay. Oh, it's a compliment for me. Why
When
did I
birds
include that?
collide.
Yeah, weird, Dane.
Oh,
Dane
weird.
killed a bird.
Well, I told people that
I
I
saw
wouldn't
that
be
bird on the
including
road
too
the other
many.
day.
Yeah, you saw it too.
Big
Nobody's
bird.
picked it up. So, I said I probably wouldn't include as many like complimentary, nice comments because you just can't do too much with them usually. But I thought this was a good one. So basically, Edmund Iverson, he's been watching our videos a lot lately. He basically said, Dane, great way to sum it all up. We don't want to dissuade people by smothering them with our detailing world idiosyncrasies. Wash on. So basically what he was saying that in response to was basically figuring out what's right for the customer. We were having that discussion in our podcast on episode 60, When Birds Collide, where essentially we had been talking about how not everybody thinks the same way. A customer, you don't give a coating to a customer who's just going to keep going to the car wash, that sort of thing. So, I mean, I can read my response here. It's basically the way I feel about this stuff, although I think people have already figured this out by now. I responded to him saying, thank you, Dane here. I personally believe that one of the most common shortcomings people have is the assumption that everyone else thinks the same way they do. And no, I'm not just talking about opinions or perceptions. Rather, the way people arrive at those conclusions, the personal history they apply to every experience that guides and informs their decision-making. Basically, I like to think about what makes people tick.
Yeah.
And you have no hope of doing that if you can't empathize with others in the first place, the most basic form of which is putting yourself in another person's shoes. And people wonder why I wanted to start a podcast.
No,
So,
but that's
yeah.
right. I mean, you got to see it from their point of view.
Mhm.
And that's the easiest way to do it.
Because it's easy to just like apply your own mania, your own idiosyncrasies, your own crazy onto somebody else.
I guarantee you the way I wash my cars every week is not the same way Anthony washes his cars every week, and not.
You both know it ain't like mine.
Not the way like you wash.
Yeah.
So, Anthony could tell both of us from now on, you guys wash like I do. This is how I do it, and I'll look at it and go like, I don't have time for that. That stresses me out.
No, for those who haven't figured it out yet, Levi is Mr. Efficiency. He takes after Ivan in that sense. He really just, cracks down, makes it happen.
I try and get stuff done like the fastest. I always look for the fastest, easiest way. It's almost cheating, but it's...
Oh, no, whenever I try and film you working, it's always like, oh, my God, okay, I got to get the stuff. He's already onto this.
When we did your video, I literally told you, Dane, I'm going to get in and get down with this.
The Jeep foaming video was a perfect example. You just hauled through the whole thing, and I was just like, whoa, hang on.
Yeah, or and then polishing your car. In that video, I'm sorry, I'm going to get in and go because once I get going, I don't want to stop.
And we just capture what we can.
Yeah, you just get it, and I will stop and talk to the camera here and there, but I'm going to get in and get some.
Right, and by contrast, Anthony here, you are very methodical. You put a lot of thought into what you do. He can lean on experience because he's already done the thought in the past, and he's able to call upon it.
I'll call BS on it. Mine's just muscle memory.
That's actually,
that's it.
There's a lot of truth there. But once again, that's experience, muscle memory.
I walk up to a car. This is the way my body works around a vehicle.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't do anything. It's like I start here and I may finish here. Yeah. Where you will bounce around a little bit.
Me, I look at a car and it's like and I was explaining this in our Wash Wednesday.
Like a puzzle almost.
When I look at a car, I see puzzle pieces and I see body lines and I think. And I already start mapping out. This is what's going to happen here, 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 and here. It's not going to make sense to somebody watching, right? Like if they're going to be like, "Oh, he's going to do that."
Your
first,
puzzle piece is different than my puzzle,
and go there, and then he's going to do that, right? They're like, "Why did he just do that over to there, right? That doesn't make sense, right? He just wasted 30 minutes of time." Well, it didn't. I usually don't waste time. I'll make it up all up in the end, but it just doesn't make sense when I'm doing it because I tackle a car purely based off the way, and it's hard to explain, but people might understand what I'm saying when you look at a car and all you see is like this.
They're trapezoids.
This structure of like I see lines and dots
you see
and things like that.
And triangles. And
it's like that meme of that.
Diagrams, charts, that's all the math, algebra figures floating in front of your face.
But it's kind of like that.
You're Rain Man it.
But it's just a matter of like what I'm going to use where and where. And it's basically, it's kind of like I'm taking, I place a product here on this visual structure of this vehicle. And I say there. Okay, go. And start grabbing things and then just start going at it. And it's kind of hard because typically, that's why I was so impressed with the latest Wash Wednesday, because typically when I'm beyond just the entertaining detail guy that I play in the videos, I get very into my own head on how I'm going to do things. So that's why I was so impressed when our latest guest in Wash Wednesday, I handed her things and I just said, do what I do here. And she said, okay, and did it. And I was like,
she was really good.
I'm like,
that was great.
You were able to get into the mainframe and figure out what I'm doing with very little. That's awesome. And so
there wasn't a lot of hand holding going on in the whole process.
No, there was not, Dane. So there's very few people I've worked with that can do that. But when we work together, I know you're doing your own thing, and I just say Levi's doing his own thing. I'm doing my own thing. And then you'll come around and you'll say...
I'll just ask you where you're at.
And you'll say, have you gotten this yet? Have you gotten this yet? I'm like, I haven't gotten this yet. And you're like, well, why did you do this, this, and this? And I'm like, because I already did steps 2 and 3 in this area where you may have done step 1, but you got way further than what I did, right? But I made that time up in that period of time. And you're like, oh... Okay, I see. We meet halfway.
I know what your puzzle will look like because I know how you think.
Delicate sledgehammer, scalpel.
Delicate sledgehammer.
Yeah, that's about right.
So,
the hammer.
And everybody figures out their own way of doing things, and I think there's a lot of things to make people more efficient. Like, I mean, back in the day, if I wouldn't have learned a lot of the efficiency techniques that I've learned from Levi or Ivan, then things I would be doing already would be taking me much longer. But those tips, I just incorporated into my already existing method, which made me faster in certain areas. So,
well, and that's, we've got there's one of our friends has been messaging me, and that's his problem is he's trying to figure out how to get faster. And he explained, this is the amount of time it takes me to do this level of a job. And I said, ooh, yeah, that's not dude, you shouldn't be doing
shouldn't
like
take that long.
shouldn't take you that long at all. And it's different because he's coming at it from somebody who hasn't ever had that experience of going fast. I came from it. I came from a production background. And a production background was making $35 a car. That's what I was paid to do an entire car, inside and outside, with full extraction, shampooing, cleaning the interior, door panels, plastics, leather, vinyl, door panels, dash, all that stuff, center console, getting all that cleaned, headliner cleaned, windows inside and out, removing water spots, and rotoring 3 steps.
Yeah.
It ain't nothing.
And I had to get that car done.
Yeah.
And the sooner I got it done, the sooner I made $35.
Right.
And we're not talking about $35 40 years ago. We're talking about $35 20 years ago.
Yeah.
To where it's like, okay, I need to do 2 cars a day to make $70 in an 8-hour day. That'd give me like $9.50 an hour, basically.
Yeah.
I need to do 3 cars if I'm going to make some money. If I can do 3 cars a day, then I'm actually making some good money between the hours of 8 and 5. That's in 9 hours, And so your brain goes, all right, that's what we got to do. How do I get it all done? Then I also had a guy my boss would come out and go, he'd look over the car.
Yeah,
And
you'd
if it
have to make
wasn't-
sure you did a good
If
job.
it wasn't done right, I'm back out there.
Yeah.
And I'm working on it for another hour.
That costs you
And
time.
you start looking at the number of hours. So I looked at it and go, now for me, I go, man, I'll do 1 steps all day long. Like that's,
Yeah.
I can do that in 2 hours. Like if I redid a detail shop, I'd only do exteriors and I'd only do 1 and 2 steps, and that's it, because I can kill those out quick. Then I look at it and go, interiors aren't that bad either. Most interiors aren't that bad, and you can charge for it.
Yeah.
And you can make some good money just doing interiors. And a lot of guys seem to forget that.
Well, because paint's way sexier,
Paint's way sexier looking, but I mean, if you can wash a car and just clean the interior for folks, that's
Yeah.
where they spend 90% of their time. They're going to love you forever.
That's most customers.
Yeah. And if you can get that clean, man, you can make some money on that. And
Yeah.
so that's the way I looked at it. And so my speed, and even to the consequently Matt Ward's speed, he's exceeded me.
He's a savant.
He is faster than I can be, and he can get stuff done. Matt, when I trained Matt, once he figured out, I can make as much money as I want, he was
Just up to you, buddy.
he's 4 or 5 cars a day,
Mhm.
and he's getting them done, and they're perfect. And it's like, holy crap. And then when I started Hawks and he came over, I told my investors, they were like, we want to get Matt in here. It'd be killer to have Matt. I said, we need 60 cars a month on tap, ready to go, just for him.
Otherwise, you're wasting your talents.
Because we're wasting his time for the month, because it's not worth it for him to come if he doesn't get 60 cars a month. He has to have 60 cars.
Yeah.
He's going to knock it out. And I'm not talking about 30 days. I'm talking about 20 work days.
And you're talking
That's
about
4
a lot of
cars
these
a
are
day.
rough
Yeah.
cars.
But Matt, that's how he works.
Auction cars,
Right.
dealer cars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we get retails that are nice and clean and easy and get done in 45 minutes, and I was paying Matt $50 a car.
Yeah.
But, those make money. Or coatings. I paid my guys based on the coating job. Some of them, they were making almost 50% of the coating. I basically just gave them a percentage of the detail itself.
Nice.
And said, you're getting 40% of this detail. And they'd see the ticket and they're like, oh, that's $2,200.
Yes.
You get 40% of it. They're like, done, sweet, like
Yeah.
it.
Sign me up.
Made it fun to work, and they could do it. But when guys are starting out and they have that problem of just trying to figure out their time management, it's very difficult and different for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why we do what we do and why we teach what we teach and show what we show, is to hopefully make you guys better detailers, make you faster, make you more efficient. Because if you're more efficient, you're quicker at it, you can make some money. But if you're faster, more efficient, you're happier, meaning that you're going to explain things to your customers much easier. And maybe you're going to take things in a little better. Maybe you're going to understand where they're coming from. You're not focused on, I need perfection. He demands perfection. Really?
Not many people
I
have
don't
the
think people
time
know
nor
what,
the finances
they don't know what
for perfection.
They don't know what perfection is. So maybe that customer, like we said in that podcast, was maybe they love washing their car once a week at the car wash. That's fun for them. So don't perfect their car, because that's wasting your time and their money. Give them a one-step and do a really great job on the interior, they let them keep it clean, and next year they come back for the same thing, and you just do a quick one-step polish on it.
And you're saving room for the next detail, assuming you're not
and
removing a bunch of clear coat.
Exactly. You're not wet sanding and polishing so they can go run it through a car wash again.
I mean, when you call Jason Kilmer, you're serious. You really, there's a reason you're calling him in. It's because your car is designed from the start for him to
You
come
guys
and
may
do
remember recently he was in town working on a car for the Grand National Roadster Show.
Yeah.
And when I was talking to him, the customer wanted him to do a show car quality Riddler award-winning job. He inspected the car. The car is not the level of quality or caliber that a Riddler contender should be.
I don't think people realize
he stated that.
How high a bar that is.
And this guy paid to have him fly into Boise, spend 4 days with him, and work on his car. And Jason inspected the car and said, it's a nice car. It's not ever going to be able to compete to Riddler. If we're going to do that, it needs to be completely repainted. And this is a 29 Model A with a chrome under, suspensions all polished aluminum and chrome and beautiful paint. And I mean, looks really good. But to a man like Jason, he looks at it and goes, no,
he's seen
it's got too many flaws. It will get disqualified. It's not worth me doing this, and it's not worth you putting in the amount of work or money for me to do this. So I'll wet sand, I'll finish a couple spots, and I'll do a one-step polish on it.
But trust me, this is the right way to go, unless you want to repaint the whole thing.
A Jason Kilmer one-step polish is still a pretty penny.
That is up there, yeah.
But he disassembled some parts to polish those parts to make sure it was that way. But the customer, when he saw it, ultimately was like, this looks really good. I like the way this looks. I'm okay with this.
It's all relative.
Yeah. But the guy thought he wanted something better than he actually got.
Ties back to the original comment, which was don't put your crazy on the customer.
Exactly.
You have to understand where they're coming from.
Yeah.
And then once you know that, you'll know how to approach it.
Well, and still, detailers still put that in. Our friend in Hidden Springs, Sid, she said that. She had a customer the other day, and she said, he demands perfection. And I said,
do you know what that means?
I know she knows what that means.
Yeah.
But at the same time, she's trying to give him his version of perfection.
Yeah.
But fixing the ability that she's not burning herself out on the car.
Yeah.
And she's making money on it. So it all just depends. You've got to be able to listen to your customer.
There's diminishing returns for a reasonably priced detail.
Exactly.
So. All right, next up, Tim.
So you guys are at an
Tim's
hour
like,
and
you're
20
done.
minutes with 2 left. So
That's
the
okay.
last
We're
comment.
making a big
That's a good
episode
one.
here. Yeah,
I was
this is
wondering
good.
why I was so hungry. I'm like, man.
I haven't gotten to lunch yet.
Yeah. So the next comment here is from our podcast channel as well.
Okay. Oh, we kind of talked about this already. Hey,
so
he watches
regarding
a lot
the
of
new
our
clay
videos.
towel, it sounds like the new leaflet pocket design probably causes less marring because of the stripped off contaminants are less likely to get rubbed back in against the paint. Do I have that right? Rag Company Podcast replies, there is still a chance of marring, like there is with any clay medium, but the perforations definitely help reduce that likelihood compared to a clay medium that doesn't have them. It also makes the towel itself much more malleable because of the mesh of the material is always easier to fold and manipulate than a solid piece of the same material. Also, the perforations allow for lubrication between the surface and the clay itself.
And that was the best thing.
Right.
I hadn't even thought about that until Ivan said that. And it's like, oh, it all makes sense now. That's really smart. Okay, yeah.
Because the backside is still a microfiber terry weave. I mean,
it's a terry style
It's like a
towel.
pearl
It's like
weave.
it's like a pearl weave. Where
It's that very tight, short.
where the
pile.
backside is going to hold. It's gonna hold liquid, and just through those holes is the perforation to the other side of that microfiber. So when that microfiber
It's
drains,
compressed just a
it
little bit. I mean, you
compresses,
just push on it and it'll put more liquid on the surface.
it comes down through, and that's why, unlike the original Optimum clay towel, the original clay towel was best used when soaked in O&R. You pull it out and you're basically using it as a wet towel. Whereas this towel, you can do that, or you can just spray a ton of lubrication, like I was saying before, the IK multi-sprayer, and put a nice mist of it, and that microfiber will absorb through those perforations that liquid on the surface up into the towel, so you still have a constant flow.
Yeah,
of
you
lubrication.
literally do have a Zwitter ionic property
Yeah.
So by any
Cross there.
reasonable measure, there is a reason. It does cost a little bit more than the old towel, but the advantages far outweigh
Well,
any
just like the big
cons.
red sponge. Everyone goes, oh, it's too expensive. Well, the reason is it lasts.
It's not your average sponge.
a really, really long time. And
Yeah.
for some of us, that's the one sponge you'll ever need for the rest of your life.
I did what, 996
Yeah.
cars?
And then I
Yeah.
took it home and still used it.
Yeah.
And that's in a shop setting, guys.
Yeah, and that's used every day, 3, 4, 5 times a day.
Yeah.
But
a grout sponge isn't going to do that.
No, and I did. I bought some grout sponges because I thought, I'll just use this. Dude, they deteriorate. O&R eats it and deteriorates it within like a week or two, or it tears, becomes so brittle.
Yeah.
So there's a reason the big red sponge is so amazing, because it's developed for O&R use. And the same with this clay towel. It was developed to be used with O&R as a clay lube, used in the Optimum system.
Now,
and it's awesome.
for those curious about it, I'm sure there's some sort of maintenance guidelines for people who, once they've
Wash
had their
it.
towel out, you wash it. But
You clean it with Power Clean. You can spray some Power Clean on the surface.
Mm-hmm.
You can abrade it with your hand, like scrub the clay with your hand, or you can use another towel, spray some Power Clean on that, scrub the clay, and then just wash it out. Rinse
Now-
it out in the sink.
You can also take
and wring it out and then hang it up.
What I did is just at home last weekend when I was doing that detail and I needed to take the clay towel home with me, I just went underneath the sink. You know, like most sinks have the spray setting now.
Yep.
You know, I just turned it onto that. I sprayed Power Clean and I just sprayed a pressurized, pinpoint spray onto the towel, moved it around, kind of flopped it around, rubbed it on itself, rubbed it with my hand, and I looked and I was like, I can't find
That's
anything.
it.
I mean, it was perfect. So.
And it's a lighter clay, so you can
Yeah.
see if there's
Yeah.
stuff in it.
Yeah.
And but yeah, no, very, very simple to use.
No, I've yet to find anything that we've done where it performed anything less than exemplary at everything it did.
And
So
I'll probably be buying my personal one. I'll stop taking the work one home. I'll probably be buying that maybe tomorrow. So
Yeah, me too.
We'll see.
Need one
it'll
for
probably be the
myself.
only one you need for a long time.
Yep.
So
I know.
all right, Tim, what do we got next?
Awesome, guys. The next comment comes from the Auto Geek Facebook group.
Now I have to ask, is this our last comment?
This is the final comment.
Okay. So, looks like we've got the Detailing 101 by Auto Geek Facebook group, which always has conversations going on, and it looks like Trenton Hallmark was a conversation starter here.
Trenton.
Yeah.
Hello. Greetings.
Greetings.
All right. So Trenton says, can you guys remind me how this is okay to use on clear coat? I had this touch-up pen clogged with base coat, as in real base coat, not those paint pen things. I soaked it in mineral spirits for a week straight, and it did nothing. I soaked it in alcohol a week straight, and it did nothing. I put it in lacquer thinner for 3 minutes, and it immediately was spotless. So even by just putting this stuff on your paint, you're obviously doing something to the clear coat that it doesn't like. So please make an example as to why it's safe, and don't say because I used it for X amount of years and never had an issue, because that logic doesn't work. Give me real evidence that it doesn't harm the paint. So Trenton, I've been a detailer for 20 years. I've used it 100 times and it works just fine. So don't know what the issue is.
Next question.
Next
Oh,
question.
man,
So here's what I know about lacquer thinner. Lacquer thinner is very safe on clear coat because of the hardeners and other things that are already in clear coat. Now, paint thinner does not work on clear coat because it actually starts to thin out clear.
Yeah.
So we use lacquer thinner because lacquer thinner is designed to dissolve lacquer.
Yeah.
But clear coat is not lacquer based.
So unless you're working on a car from the 70s or
right.
Well, I
Now-
mean, lacquer, that's what they use in houses and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
too.
So it's like,
So it's utilizing a different cleaning agent for a different base layer, basically. Now, paint is a lacquer base, so the base coat is going to be removed. And if you tried to put lacquer thinner on maybe a single stage paint job, you are going to have some issues where you might wear the paint out because
you'll have
you're
some,
rubbing paint.
You'll pull some
Yeah.
stuff off. If
You're actually
were to-
removing color.
Yeah.
And lacquer thinner, if you leave it in a spot, so let's say you put it on your towel and you set it on the clear coat, yes, it will soften the clear coat.
Yeah.
Now I'm talking leaving it, going to lunch, coming back.
so
you
like
pick
an
that
hour
up, half hour to
minimum.
an hour, you pick that towel back up, two things. If you didn't have enough lacquer thinner on it, the towel is now stuck to the surface of the paint.
Yeah.
If you had a lot of lacquer thinner on it, you can peel that off, and the towel, the clear coat, now has the texture of the towel in it.
Indention marks, yeah.
And it can cause that issue because it has softened the clear, but it does take a while.
Yeah.
Now, I have had instances where I've rubbed lacquer thinner on clear over and over and over and over and over again to try and remove sap, tar, things like that. And I have left marring in the clear. And I have had to wait to dry that, for that clear to dry and harden back out before I could polish on it. And so sometimes when I'd have a heavy sap job, it was one of those things where I would get it all clean, cleared off, and then I would literally wait till the next morning to come back in. And I would rewash the car to try and clarify the surface of the vehicle again to remove whatever left over. But lacquer thinner evaporates very rapidly.
Yeah.
Very rapidly. And that's why it works so well on clear, is because that evaporation process is so quick that it almost just flashes on the surface.
Yeah.
But if you allow that lacquer thinner to set,
then you got problems.
Then you have problems.
Well, I mean, but the thing is about this whole discussion, like I said, people have been using it for years, right? And that's
I've literally been using it for 20 years.
Yeah.
And the reason I switched to all EPA friendly chemicals was because my wife said, I started realizing you've been washing your hands with lacquer thinner for 20 years.
Your hands are falling apart, man.
That's probably not a good thing.
Yeah.
And she's right. It probably isn't a very good thing, so please use gloves when you use lacquer thinner. I thought I was invincible when I was younger and didn't really care.
What I'm trying to say is that, I mean, in moderation, right? Everything, I don't want to say everything.
Everything in moderation, yeah.
Everything in moderation, to where it's like, is this going to be your first go-to on everything? Absolutely not,
No,
right?
This
is your big gun that you pull out when you've got heavy tar that you haven't used a tar remover for, or heavy sap that you haven't used a sap remover for, or maybe you don't like using the razor blade trick, you're scared to use it to try and get those, so this is what you go to.
Yeah.
Yes, you can do it. Yes, it's going to be a little, I don't recommend it to people when they've, first get started or they've never used it. I always try and tell them go for a tar and grease remover or tar and bug remover first, because that's developed for that and it's not going to damage stuff.
You
this is more of
the least aggressive.
It's a skill level. You have to have some
just
skill involved.
There's a lot of room for error here, and there's no detailing companies just putting lacquer thinner into a can and saying, this is for your bug and tar remover, right?
Yeah.
They're not saying that, right? People are literally saying you have to get lacquer thinner, that you have to go for that. Now,
well, it's just like people saying removing concrete. So you drive through concrete.
Yeah.
Use muriatic acid.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure.
Yes. Go buy that.
I will tell you guys, I was scared to put muriatic acid on clear coat.
Yeah.
Now, the man who taught me said it's perfectly safe. I've been using it for 20 years. I understood and I trusted him and I listened to him and he came into my shop. He showed me how to do it. It worked fine. I didn't feel comfortable.
But it was the way he did it that made it okay.
But it was because of the way he did, and he showed
just
me.
because the product is going to be fine.
Yeah, and he said, this is how it works, this is why, and these are the dilutions, this is what happens, and this is the chemical reaction on the concrete. It attacks the concrete, not the clear coat. And I was like, okay. It still scares me.
Yeah.
And I have employees, and it scares them, and I don't want them to do it. So I just never did it.
So basically, I mean,
lacquer thinner is the same way.
And this is, and I'll give you guys two different examples here. So everything in moderation, right? I'm not going to go use Power Clean at full strength, right, and go spray my entire car down and let it sit out in the sun and let it bake in the sun.
It's so good diluted. You should start there
first.
There's
so many things that could be
so many
caustic.
variables.
There's so many variables out there. Whereas this particular one, right, let's just say you do have a sap spot or you do have a tar spot or you do have something you're trying to remove, right, and you have attacked it with a really aggressive wash. Didn't happen, right? You really scrubbed really, really hard. Nothing happened. You went to a really aggressive clay. You clayed super, super hard. You marred the paint.
Maybe you used petroleum jelly on some spots.
You scuffed up the clear. Everything's all marred and everything's all bad now. And then you say, I'm just going to pull out the polisher. So you pull out the polisher with the most aggressive compound, the most aggressive cutting pad you have, and you're cutting on it, and it's finally starting to give a little, and it's almost getting ready to go, and then finally it goes. And then you do a paint depth measurement, right? And you're like, how much did I remove anything maybe that I shouldn't have, right? And you go to do the before, then the after, and you realize you've taken off 1.5 mil of clear or something like
Right.
that, right? Whereas you could have easily just taken lacquer thinner on a piece of towel, wiped that one spot, removed
For
it
4 seconds.
for 4 seconds, and you'd be done, and you would have only affected that one spot by softening the clear.
And if you're
And
lucky
you
enough to have an hybrid, you just and it's done.
but you know what I'm
Quick
saying?
little polish
Like-
with the yellow
Yeah.
pad and some
Like
ceramic,
you can
and you're done.
screw up in so many other ways.
No, there
before it gets to
there
this.
there are, and I've had customers come in that maybe gone through tar after a road's been chip sealed,
Yeah.
and they're like, "Oh man, it's all over my car," but they know how to fix it, right? And they go, "You just tell me how to do it, and I will do it." And I literally would grab lacquer thinner, and I'd grab a rag, and I'd say, "Here's what you do. Put it on this type of towel. Don't put it on a red towel. Don't put it on a blue towel. Put it on a white towel.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's white cotton or white microfiber, it doesn't matter. Put it on a white towel. Take that white towel, get it wet, put some gloves on, get the towel wet, wipe the surface. It's coming off. Oh, awesome. But if you wait too long, it's going to, and then once they figure it out, they can do it. But it's only on select customers that you can do that with. Other customers come in, I just need you to take care of it. Okay. I didn't like using tar removers because tar removers made my shop smell for like 3 days.
Yeah.
Lacquer thinner worked much easier and was safer, faster, quicker for my guys to use because they could get it done a lot faster and they didn't make a mess. The shop didn't stink. Didn't have to explain to customers, 3 days ago we did tar removal. Like there's reasons why I used it because it was fast, quick, and easy. But chemically, as far as I know, lacquer thinner removes lacquer, paint thinner removes clear coat. Don't use paint thinner. Use lacquer thinner on clear coat. Now, there are many chemists in the U.S. John Miller is one of them. You can check out the Old Gray Whistle test and type in lacquer thinner and learn about it. And you can get all the information right there from him. It's
Yeah.
the Detailer's Wiki. It's a blog
It's got
site.
cited sources. It's got everything.
And
if you want
he's
evidence.
he's an organic chemist. You can contact Dr. David Gadusi. It's on the back of the Optimum bottles, and you can ask him yourself, why is lacquer thinner safe on clear coat?
I
And
hear
he'll
that
tell
guy
you-
knows something about
He'll
clear
tell you
coat.
on a microscopic level why it'll work over something else, or he may say, actually, acetone works even better. And other
Yeah.
people go, I heard acetone's worse. He's like, meh, on some. I'm not saying that's what he say, but you never know.
Yeah.
Like, he could give you a different point of view as to why, or he'll say, these are the reasons I don't recommend lacquer thinner, but it's not going to hurt anything if you don't exceed this time limit.
So once again, everything in moderation.
There's chemists out there. Check out John Miller, the Old Gray Whistle Test, or TOGWT, Blogspot, Detailer's Wiki, or contact Dr. David Gadusi at the back of the Optimum No Rinse bottle. The man's
Yeah.
also got a degree in organic chemistry.
Yeah.
He could give you the proper answer.
Very cool. So
Yes,
hopefully
sir.
that answers your question for you, Trenton. That
The real
is-
answer,
that's
though, dude, I've been doing it for 20 years. And
just what he wants to hear.
Right on.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well,
This has been
man,
fun.
is that
this
it?
went on for
No
a
more
little bit.
questions? Sorry, guys. This was a long one, but we hope you enjoyed it.
I think they did. I know I enjoyed it. You guys?
I'm hungry.
All right.
so-
Well,
That was good.
All right.
take that as it is. Any rate, guys, thank you so much for listening, for watching. If you're on the Rag Company Podcast YouTube channel and you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and click like on the
Yeah,
video. We
do.
we really try and make these things as engaging, educational, interesting as possible. You know, we're not going to pull punches, but we're also not going to make it too easy for ourselves either. So just wanted to make sure that you guys are enjoying it. And by the way, if you guys are enjoying it, please go over to iTunes, leave us a review. That is extremely helpful.
Literally.
We love that.
You need to leave us a review or a
Not,
rating.
not just a rating. Like, rating is really helpful too.
Leave a rating
but
and a review.
A review. It doesn't even have to be some long, drawn-out paragraph, although I think some people like doing that, and we definitely appreciate it when we get to read them. It's
Yeah.
nice. But if you just say, cool, dude, and you
I
leave a
love the newest
5-star or
one
something,
was that the
I'm
Rag
game.
Company Main Show podcast is the choice of a new generation.
He was listening.
I saw that. That was pretty awesome.
Amazing.
So
Thank you.
thank you guys. Also, yeah, awesome podcast. That's all you gotta literally type. Or Anthony's the funniest. Or who cuts Anthony's hair? Any of those would be great.
Christine,
Oh,
she's a
Any
man.
of those would be great.
So you
Why
guys
hasn't
get the
Dane
idea.
driven his Miata today? Any of those. Leave it. Just leave a comment. We would love it. At iTunes under the Rag Company Main Show.
Rag
just think
Company
it'd be great.
Podcast. Yep.
Rag Company podcast. Ooh, another comment I would like to see.
Yes.
When's the Elantra coming back?
Oh.
Or-
the Elantra,
or
the Elantra strikes
High
back.
Performance Machine 2.0.
Yeah.
Or-
Question mark.
My other car, hashtag my other car's an Elantra would be an amazing review.
Yeah.
Honestly. So,
Couldn't hurt.
yeah. Leave
People
it.
who know. Anyway, guys, we're dragging this out. But once again, thank you so much in advance if you leave a review or
Thank you.
rating. We really appreciate that. And otherwise, guys, we really enjoyed doing these comments of the week. I want to do more. So look forward to seeing
Send 'em
us
in.
again on the Rag Company podcast. Have a good one, guys.
Peace out.